Less than 1 month to go till my first Ironman. I normally like to start these videos with something inspiring or witty, but as of now, the theme is that I am tired. Going with that, we'll wing it today. Hey, it's Carleigh and Christian. We're two crazy endurance athletes who live in beautiful Santa Barbara, California. In 2021, Carleigh is chasing the goal of completing her first Ironman. Don't forget to subscribe for new videos every week. So kind of heading into the final stretch of my training, really in an interesting groove this last month where I tapered from my 70.3 and then really ramped up for Ironman training. There was a ton of different things and it's hard to even think it all happened, but kind of going to go through, mental health, the swim, the bike, the run, nutrition, recovery, and just some thoughts for the last little bit of training. So thinking about how I approached kind of my mental focus and mental health the last month, I would say I was about a 7 to 8 out of 10. Overall, most of the time I was doing great, but being tired is usually something that's triggering for me, and needless to say, training for an Ironman with a new full-time job is a little exhausting. Definitely had a few tough days in there, just a few things that threw me a little more than they normally would, just because I'm so fatigued right now. Managed to kind of get through those, focus on the positive takeaways that I could from every workout, and when workouts were hard, I just kept saying this is hard, so that's part of it, and for some reason that was helpful to me. Overall, yeah, I kind of say I was close, but I did my best to kind of pivot on those tough days, and overall pretty content. Training this last month was really low right at the beginning because I was recovering from my 70.3. So I had a really light week and then things took off. So overall, interestingly enough, my swim mileage was down compared to last month. However, I had my very first over 4,000 swim in as long as I can remember. I don't remember, it's been quite a few years since I've swam that far. That was a really big deal to me because that was finally over the Ironman distance and that felt really good. The first one was exhausting, but after I got into a rhythm, they got a little bit easier and a little bit easier, closer and closer to feeling a lot stronger, even with some pretty happy with where the swim was at, and also added in a lot more open water swims this last month. We have a local event here called Night Moves. So every Wednesday I've been getting in the ocean to get used to the cold, used to open water swimming again, and just feeling as confident in the open water as I do in the pool. As I've gotten older, I've gotten allergic to chlorine, so it's kind of a slight issue, but time to get home. So overall, my mileage the last month was 15 miles in the water and 24.1 kilometers. So pretty decent month, and excited that, things started to really pick up towards the end of it. So of all three disciplines, the only thing that actually increased in mileage the last month was biking. And it was only by a tiny bit. Overall, had really a big trajectory of growth in the last month with cycling. I got a power meter, which is pretty much my new favorite tool I have. There's way too many toys in this sport, but the power meter is super helpful, especially when I do a lot of my workouts indoors on Zwift, on the indoor trainer. It helps to have a comparable point when I'm outside. So it's been a really helpful tool as my mileage has gone up. Overall, I had a great month, had my first century ride in, over a decade, over 13 years maybe. And it was a great confidence booster. 100 miles down. First time in over a decade. Way better than last time. Last time I stopped for pizza. And had like multiple flats. Since then I have done quite a few. That feels like my now normal ride. It's really been a huge month to where I'm feeling strong at the end of my 100-mile rides. Overall, I ended up biking 358.7 miles or 577.3 kilometers. It's way more than I've driven in the last few months, so I'm kind of proud of that. Got some big stuff around the corner. So running has always been what I felt like was kind of my Achilles heel. So I had my very first 19 miler in I think over a year. I want to say I ran that at like 11:30 pace. And I was able to do my first 19 miler in a 9:35 pace, which was really fast for me. I'm not really sure where that came from. I felt really strong. Since then have done quite a few, similar to the century rides where this became my normal run. Pretty wild to say that. This last month, my mileage went down, but my distance on these long runs has definitely gone up to where these weekend workouts are getting pretty impressive to me. Overall, not too bad. Ran 68.3 miles, which is 109.9 kilometers. Similar to the others, went down a little because of that recovery from Des Moines, and then really ramped up to focus on Copenhagen. Had some big mileage and some big mileage right around the corner, and just to kind of nail in that training at that very last bit. I think I've mentioned this before, but the reason it took me so long to train and do an Ironman was I knew the amount of time and effort that it deserved. To me, it was really important to be prepared. And that's why I put this off for so long in doing triathlons. But I've been surprised at how I can kind of juggle it. It's really busy with work. It's really busy with trying to cook and chores. And I'm very thankful I work from home. In the last month, even with a week that was mostly off, took it easy, and I still was averaging 12 hours and 17 minutes a week in training. And really that was ramping up from a mellow recovery week to 15-hour training weeks at the end of this month. After my little epiphany last month with not fueling properly, I have turned quite a corner, trying to keep an eye on making sure I fuel properly, but I'm pretty much just hungry quite often. So a lot of it is trying to make sure I eat enough. I feel like a lot of my day is fit around how to eat on top of how to train and how to work, and make sure I have enough time to digest the mass amount of food I'm eating before I get to a workout. And I feel like that's one of the hardest parts of fitting it all in, because before I could kind of eat close to a workout or something like that. But now it's okay, I have to eat a pretty large meal, digest that meal, and get my workout in. This is where we're at. I have not eaten enough today, but I have to shower for my swim, so I'm gonna eat cheese sticks in the shower. Overall, nutrition is 10 times better. I am going to share my race day nutrition plan soon, just ironing out a few kinks in there, but feel pretty good overall with where that's gotten. Recovery has been quite fun. I sleep like a rock most of the time, except for after long workouts, which is something I've heard quite a bit from some people, is after a really long day, my first century ride, for example, I did not sleep all that night. I think my body just runs too hard after that. As the month went on, I got better after those long workouts of going to sleep. However, I learned how helpful my recovery boots are. I didn't do them between a long ride and a long run one day. Then the following weekend I did, and it was just like a completely different experience. Nutrition is part of my recovery, but I also take it pretty easy afterwards, making sure I sleep, making sure I don't procrastinate too late from Saturday's workout, that I don't have enough time to recover by Sunday's workout. I've been very guilty of late afternoon Friday swims and then having to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to go riding for quite a long time. So that's definitely helped fatigue me, but overall just focusing on that recovery the best that I can. Looking ahead, I have really only 2 big weekends left, and that's it. And then it starts to lower in time with some intense bursts still in there. I'm really just trusting my coach because I don't really just do what she says and hope for the best. So far it's worked well. Trying to wrap my head around the fact that we're actually traveling, it still doesn't seem real. With training for something for so long, the actual race, it almost doesn't seem like it's happening. Because that's the big thing I gotta figure out in the next month, is wrap my head around this and get the last training done and figure out how I'm gonna pack everything to fly halfway across the world with my nutrition and my gear and still somehow have room for regular clothes, which might be a challenge. But, you know, I've got some cool things around the corner, so focusing on that. Stay tuned, there's some fun stuff around the corner. I'll try and get as much of the race as I can, and I'll share my race final thoughts. Subscribe, follow along if you found it fun, and would love to hear your thoughts. Quiet on the set. And I was able to do my first 19 miler. To lower in intensity, lower in time,